you have more sympathy for the criminal than the victim, don't you?
Senator, I worked on behalf of victims of crime zealously as a prosecutor. As a judge, I listened carefully to understand impact on victims, and I have always take that into account.
Do you know Micah Smith?
Michael Smith, Senator?
Micah, M-I-C-H.
I don't believe I know a Micah Smith, Senator, no.
Okay. I bet the victims of Micah Smith remember Micah Smith if you don't.
Senator, there was a defendant I sentenced named Michael Smith.
Mr. Smith molested a 4-year-old girl, didn't he?
Senator, he was convicted after trial of unlawful sexual contact under Maine law.
That's a nice way of putting it.
That was the charge, Senator.
Right. Mr. Smith molested a 9-year-old girl, didn't he?
Senator, again, he was convicted of unlawful sexual contact against 2 children. In that case, I did impose the sentence the state requested.
At oral argument, this is how Mr. Smith's conduct was described. Quote, you heard this testimony. All of the abuse is done in the same fashion. Smith would rub his fingers in a circular motion on the vagina of each child, and he did so repeatedly. Now, where I come from, we call that sexual abuse. You can pretty it up all you want to, Judge. This is what you said at Mr. Micah's sentencing. These are your words, not mine. What I can say, you said, is that this is a very tragic situation of a person who has a lot of good in him. A lot of good in him. Having done a very reprehensible thing to 2 young children, causing extreme damage. Did I read that correctly?
Senator, in that case, I imposed the sentence the state requested.
Did I read that, your quotation, correctly?
Senator, that I think is a portion of what I said at sentencing. My focus was on...
But the words I read, are they correct?
That's what was reported in the paper, Senator. I have not seen a transcript of the sentencing.
I bet the victims remember, Judge. You might have forgotten, just like you forgot his name, but I bet the victims remember. And then you handed down a sentence. You gave Mr. Smith 12 years, but you suspended 6 of them, didn't you?
Senator, that was at the recommendation of the state because
but it was your ruling. Did you? Is that an accurate statement of your ruling?
Senator, I accepted the state's recommendation that 6 years should be...
Fiery Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. Senator John Kennedy unleashes a powerful interrogation on a judicial nominee, questioning her past rulings in deeply disturbing child abuse cases. What follows is a tense and emotional exchange that puts the spotlight on sentencing, judicial discretion, and justice for victims. Stay tuned for the full breakdown.
The hearing begins with Senator Kennedy zeroing in on a key concern. The judge's perceived sympathy for convicted criminals over their victims. He wastes no time. You have more sympathy for the criminal than the victim, don't you?
The nominee, visibly composed, pushes back, defending her record as a former prosecutor and judge, but Kennedy isn't letting up. I have always taken into account the impact on victims.
The interrogation turns dark as Kennedy brings up one particular case, that of Micah Smith, convicted of sexually abusing young girls. Kennedy reads from graphic testimony, driving the point home. He quotes the judge's own words during sentencing where she said the abuser had a lot of good in him, and questions whether that sentiment diminished the gravity of the crimes. Kennedy presses the nominee on her decision to suspend 6 years of Smith's sentence. She defends it as a recommendation from the state, a procedural move, but Kennedy circles back. The exchange reveals the underlying debate: is justice being served, or are courts becoming too lenient with predators? Kennedy then brings up a local news article criticizing the judge for handing down light sentences in domestic violence cases. The judge rebuts, saying the article misrepresented her work. Still, Kennedy questions the optics, pointing out that public trust in the judicial system is at stake, especially when victims...
Accurate statement of your ruling?
Senator, I accepted the state's recommendation that 6 years should be suspended so that Mr. Smith would be required to participate in sex offender treatment.
I appreciate the lengthy explanation, but I think it's a pretty simple question. That was your sentence, right?
Yes, I imposed the sentence the state requested in that case.
Are you familiar with the Bangor Daily News?
I am the Bangor Daily News Senator.
Right. Did you read the article they wrote, quote, "Light sentences send a message that domestic violence does not matter," end quote. You remember that article?
I have read it, Senator. I believe it mischaracterizes a case that is
That
described.
article was about you, wasn't it?
My recollection, Senator, is that it described several different cases. The case that I worked on that was described there, the defendant in that case was acquitted by a jury of the most serious conduct, and that was not reflected in that article. And so
the newspaper got it wrong.
that was an op-ed that I believe misunderstood what happened, which is the jury acquitted the defendant of the most serious conduct that he was charged with. I was not the fact finder in that case, and so at sentencing I was bound by the jury's verdict.
Let me ask you, I'm going to run out of time here. I wish I had more time for you, Ms. Campbell, but I've seen a lot of activist judges, and I'm not saying you're the most activist, but the list you're on, it sure doesn't take long to call the roll. Let me finish with this question. I'm going to end as I began, Judge Lopez. You have more sympathy for criminals than victims, don't you?
Senator, I have the support of the Maine Coalition to End Domestic Violence and the Maine Coalition Against Sexual Assault. I believe that support is a reflection of the work I did as a prosecutor, as well as the care I take with cases involving victims as a judge.
You're embarrassed to answer my question, aren't you?
Thank you to the nominees for being here. I'm sorry that...
about how our justice system treats victims, and what kind of judges the American people want on the bench. Was this fair scrutiny or political theater? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should judges be more accountable for sentencing decisions, or are politicians weaponizing tragedy? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more powerful moments from Capitol Hill, right here on Voice of the Capitol.